I'm really excited to be here. I am the media specialist at AltCare. A little bit of background about me. I have been involved with computers and social media since about 94. I worked for CompuServe. I was managing auction websites, and that was way before Facebook and Amazon. Just to give you a little background. I get to manage our product websites for AltCare and all of our social media platforms. And this is my 7th year with AltCare. I have a degree in communication and a master's in information and telecommunication systems. I went to Ohio University down south. I'm actually from the Hocking Hills area. My husband and I are expecting our 5th grandchild next month, well, April. And we use social media to keep in touch with all of our children. We have 6 across the entire country, from Seattle to Connecticut and everywhere in between. So I love using technology. And this brings me to use an art program with everyone today. And this is an app called Sketchbook. It was released in 2009, really for Apple products originally. And it's been expanded to be available to Android users, Apple users, tablets, mobile, and there is a paid version for computers, but we are going to focus on the free version, which is for mobile devices. So studies show that art, it benefits our mental health, and really just 30 minutes of practicing every day, it helps lower anxiety, depression, and increase life satisfaction. So I hope you find this app, especially the way that you can port it around, pick up a little sketchbook and draw. Very convenient and fun and enjoyable. And if you have grandkids and they'd like to take your mobile device, this is a great tool for them to draw with if you're not drawing with it. So every device, like I said, can access the mobile version. So if you go to sketchbook.com, or if you go to your app store, you're going to see the little icon for Sketchbook. So this is what my iPad looks like on the right-hand side. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to use my app store, and I'm going to search for the Sketchbook, Sketchpad, whatever you put in there, you're going to come up with a bunch of icons. And you're going to find the one that's orange with the brown pencil in it, and you're going to download it. So if that's something you haven't done, please do that. So you find the Sketchbook app and put it on your mobile device. If you would like to draw along with me while we're doing this tutorial, please do that. And I'm going to stop here to see if anybody has any questions about where to find that on their device, or if anyone has had any problems finding it or loading it. Okay, that's good. Another good thing about this app is that you can draw with your stylus. If you have a stylus, I know a lot of pens have a little tip on them that works like a stylus. You can draw with your finger. You don't have to have a tool. Or if you have an iPad and you work with Apple pencils, that's what they're called. That's what I use. It will work with that. So once you open the app, you're going to see a basic drawing pad. So if you've got that app downloaded, go ahead and open it up, and it's going to default to this white center page right here. And hopefully you have that open. And on the left-hand side, under this blue arrow, as I've indicated, these are kind of like your drawing options, your brushes, your erasers, your blenders, your markers, and things like that. So that's going to show up on your left. On your right is your, I guess you would call them your layers. This is like your layer bank. And this little icon under the green arrow, that's your floating pen access button. And I'm going to show that in pretty much every screen capture that I'm doing throughout this tutorial, because you can move it out of your way. You can drag and change colors with it. It tells you what pen, pencil, marker, eraser that you're actually using at the time. It tells you what color you've used. So I'm just going to hit this little play button so you can kind of see this in action. The nice thing about the pen tool is that you can change your pens. So here on the left-hand side, I'm just going through the calligraphy ink pen, the brush pen, different things that you choose, and it appears in that floating tool. And then you can choose the color. So when you click that little circle, the color wheel comes up and you can select any color that you want that device to be for your drawing. And so you also can change the opacity and the thickness of your pen by dragging left and right once you've selected your pen. So you can draw really wide lines, you can draw really narrow lines, and that's all controlled by that little button. So again, this works with the pen, a stylus, or your finger. So you get to control that actual drawing device that you select. And you also get to change your color of it. So has anyone tried it yet? Have you picked a pen or a pencil or an ink pen and picked a color? Does anybody have any questions at this point? These are going to be very basic, high level, just notations across this entire tool. I just want to get you started on understanding what's available on the tool and how to control some of these things. Again, if you have any questions as we go, I can go back and forth. Just let me know. Across the top is a toolbar we're going to address too. There's some really neat features, and we'll get to those. But this is really what your default pad looks like when you open the app. So again, I'm going to kind of talk about this little layer tool. This is what makes digital drawing so nice, is because everything works in layers and you can draw on different layers. And if you can imagine them layered like a cake, your base layer on the bottom will be kind of like trumped by the next layer on top. And whatever you do on top either hides or covers or layers on top of that bottom layer. So that's how this layer bar works. And you're going to start with your background layer. So this blue arrow is pointing to this very bottom layer above that color wheel. That color wheel comes up when you click it, and you can change your background layer to anything you want. So if you click your background, you don't have to stay with white. You can make it purple, pink, blue, yellow, any color you want. So you click that bottom layer and you change the color of your background, and that's going to stay that way. And you're going to see these two little icons that are on these layers. I'm going to talk about those next. So again, the first layer that you're going to be able to draw on is going to be this default layer that shows up above your background layer. And right now, this little eyeball and this little lock is unlocked. So this is allowing you to draw on this layer. And I'm going to start with a basic pencil in black, and I'm going to show you how to build just a general picture working in layers. So if I take this pencil and I'm drawing kind of like a basic wireframe on my first layer, just in a black pencil, I'm drawing in that layer, that first layer on the right-hand side in my layer box. And as soon as I'm done drawing in this little layer box, you're going to see a tiny little thumbnail sketch of that right in that layer. So that's my first layer. The little eyeball allows you to click that and hide that layer so you don't see it at all. Because as we go and you start drawing in layers, you may find out that you don't want to see all the layers at once. You need to get them out of your way. So this next layer that I added by hitting the plus sign above, I'm going to draw hair on this figure that I'm drawing. And I'm going to move my pencil out of the way. So now I have two layers going. And you can add another layer if you're like, well, I don't like that hairstyle. Maybe I'm going to draw this person with a ponytail. So I'm going to start another layer. Again, all I've done was hide the first layer or the second layer that I started with the hair. I have my wireframe in the first layer, and you can see as I'm going up the bank of layers, the bottom layer is my background, the wireframe is the next, and then the hair layers are on top. And so I can control seeing them by hiding them, by clicking that eyeball. The lock layer is important, especially as you get more practice under your belt, because maybe you don't want to draw or mess up a layer you've drawn on. And if you click the lock button, that will not allow you to change colors. It won't allow you to delete it. It won't allow you to draw on that layer. It keeps it secure and doesn't let you mess with it until you unlock it again. So as an artist, and I do a lot of digital work, I'll do something very precise and I don't want to mess it up or accidentally draw on that layer. So I lock it. So now that you learn how to add layers, maybe you're going to want to work on some facial features. Well, we want to make sure that that is going to be another layer. And what's nice is that once I open a layer, I can drag that and I can put it between some of the layers. So I started to draw facial features and I dragged it between the two hairstyles, because now I can control the order of my layers no matter when I drew them. So that's an important part too. So it depends on what you're drawing and what you're doing. You can drag and move those layers in between what you've done and what you're working on and what you have as a base, like guide, like I have the wireframe for the head and the neck. So it's nice that you can drag and drop those layers. So this, I want to stop. Does anybody have any questions? Are you drawing anything in a layer format or basic format? Or just learning about how to use the tool and you're going to draw later, which is totally fine too. All right. So now you can see that I drew the facial features and I'm like, well, I don't want it to be an oval face. So I did some refined chin and cheek. And this, again, is a very quick sketch just to give you an idea of what you can do. And what's nice is that as I'm drawing these details and I'm like, oh, I'm going to, redo the hair a little bit. That first layer was just a guide. Again, I'm just drawing on that single layer. And I get to a point, oh, I can hide my wireframe. This is what the face is going to look like. Draw some other details back on that layer that I created. And I went all the way back and hid that first layer that I drew, the wireframe of the face, took it away, and then I could refine my drawing. So that's what's nice, is that you're not stuck or locked into keeping your rough sketches. Do some rough sketches and then do the next layer, refining it. And you can change pens, pencils, markers, whatever you're using or whatever you'd like to use within the same layer or on a new layer, just by selecting something over on your left-hand toolbar. You can also change your colors, and we're going to go over that as well. So you can change the tools on the layers or a new layer, whatever you want. So I'm going to show you now, I'm going to add color. So I like to add color on its own layer. So I would start another layer, and I'm going to start with a new tool. So this is a marker. So this marker, I've chosen to start in another layer, and I put it on top. So as you draw with this, you can see that it's going over top of the sketch. And you can keep it that way if that's the look that you want. But what's nice is that after I rough color everything in, I'm going to take that layer and I'm going to drag it below the sketch. And now you have the sketch on top. So now that you're able to add color in multiple ways without sacrificing your original drawing. So that's a neat way to add. And if you can tell, the marker is, it works just like a regular marker that you would have in the physical world. Like if you're coloring and you make a swipe and you make another on top of it where they meet and overlap, it darkens. So the digital tools work just like physical tools, and crayons, pencils, watercolor, all of that. Does anybody have any questions about this? Okay, I'll keep going. So I'm going to show you a video of me just drawing with an Apple Pencil with my iPad. And again, I'm an artist, so I have paint on my fingernails. I just finished a mural at Belden Village Mall, and I've just had the worst time trying to get the paint off my hands. But you can see that I use my pen, I use my fingers to draw. It all works the same no matter what you're using to draw, and you can control the tools the same way with the pen. You can change your tools. You can draw them all on the same layer. And there I am using my finger. What's nice, we're going to hit this new toolbar across the top we haven't talked about yet. That little arrow on the far left is your undo. So if you mess up, you can choose an eraser from your toolbar on the left, but you can also click that nice little arrow one step at a time and undo the steps. So you don't have to worry about messing up and ruining something you're doing. You have the ability to completely take that away. And that's another brilliant part of drawing digitally. So this is that toolbar that I indicated across the top. There's a lot of little gadgets. So you can undo, you can redo. That's those two right there. There's a selection tool. There's a tool that helps you move things. There's a fill bucket tool. So if you draw a shape and you pull a color, if you click that tool, you can click in the middle of the shape and it fills it for you. You don't have to sit there and color if you don't like the color. There's a ruler tool. This we're going to hit on. It's called a symmetry tool. It's a lot of fun to draw mandalas and things that replicate what you're drawing on one side of the line. It automatically does it on the other. There's shape tools. This is a predictive stroke tool. We're going to talk about that one too. You can import an image. So if you have a picture that you would like to draw on or reference while you're drawing, you pull that picture into your pad and you can reference it and you can hide it. It'll be on its own layer. So that's important. There's perspective. You can add text. And then we're also going to talk about saving. So this is a really nice little toolbar that there's so many ways to use it. And we're only going to hit it on a few high level things. So I want to show you this great tool about predictive strokes. So that's this little squiggly line here. So the higher the number that I select, the more precise that line is going to be. The lower the number, it's going to be just like I draw it with my free hand. And I'm going to show you how that works. So I'm going to drag that tool up to the highest and I'm going to draw a line. And if I hold and let go, do you see how it straightens out? It doesn't keep my freehand squiggliness. The lower the number that I choose, it's going to keep exactly how I draw it. So before you draw, you can decide, I want this to turn out very smooth and precise. And when you draw with that tool on and hold down before you let go, it automatically predicts what you want that stroke to look like. So again, that's across the top of the bar and it works with any of the pen tools, eraser tools, the blending tools that you use, but you turn that on before you start drawing and it lets the line be very, very precise. So predictive stroke is a really cool feature. And some of those other simple features I'm going to show you. So you can use different pens and markers, like I was saying, on the same layer. So here I'm going to draw a flower. So I'm using some of the spray painting tools and the watercolor pens. And then I went to an ink pen and I'm changing the color. So on the same layer, I'm drawing with 2 or 3 different pens that I keep selecting from. I keep changing my color. And you can do that on the same layer. So you don't have to work every stroke in a different layer if you don't want to. But you can do it all in the same layer and see where I'm blending the line into the color. That's the beauty of doing it on the same layer, is that you can change the way that the ink, I guess, works with one another. And there I'm adding some little leaves. And this is all on that same layer. And then once my whole layer is done, I can even go, well, I don't like the background color that I have chosen for, this particular piece. And I want to change that now that I'm all done drawing on that layer. You can go back and you can change that background. And once you're done with layers, you can combine them. So when you click on that layer, there's going to be its own little toolbar that comes up, and you can say to merge, and you can put, like I put the stem together with the leaves and that flower. And then I can also click that same layer, and I'm like, I'm going to duplicate it. And so that's how I made 2 flower layers, all identical, because I duplicated one of those layers. And when you click that layer, you're going to see that little toolbar. And once that layer is made, I can drag and drop it when I use my selection tool on the pad and put it in another location on my picture. So you don't have to draw the same flower over and over and over again. You can duplicate it. So if you want to make a whole, bouquet of flowers, for example, you can draw one, and then you can click that and duplicate it. And you can also click it and change the way that the opacity and the way that it responds to different, I guess they call them, there's like a normal, and there is a color burn where this one is darker than the other. And there's different opacity characteristics. Does anybody have any questions while I'm showing this? Because this is a kind of an advanced thing, but it's still easy to use. And I wanted to make sure that you could, see that. And you can move them with your finger. You don't have to move them with the stylus. That's a nice thing. So you can see how I'm moving things once the selection is, the layer is selected. So it's neat to build a picture based on repetitive pieces. And again, I'm going back to my background layer, and I'm changing the color of the background. They're blend modes. Those are the things that you can change how it layers on top of one another and how they blend. So just by clicking that layer, all of those little tools come up. Does anybody have any questions about those? So maybe you're drawing something, and once you have finished drawing, you want to save it. So you've got lots of options. You can save it to your gallery on the device that you have. You can save a copy. You can export it as a PDF or a particular type of file, or you can share it straight to social media. So that's up to you. That's something that, I would think that you wouldn't want to at least, you don't want to lose what you've worked on, even if it's a rough draft. So I would at least save it to the Sketchbook app, or if it's a complete image, you can just save it to your galleries, to your images. So that's, what I'm showing here. And it gives you a little prompt to give permission to the app to do that. So does anybody have any questions about sharing that or saving that? Here's some other features across the top of the toolbar. So if you click the shapes, this allows you to draw an exact shape. You click a circle and drag it in a square. You can drag it across the top here. That gives you a line, a circle, and a square. So that allows you to do basic shapes, and then you can manipulate those as you drag and drop them. So that's something that is a lot of fun to do. This symmetry tool is wonderful. So this is a vertical symmetry drawing. I'm going to give you a little preview. I'm going to choose a different pen and color. And this is like a little brush. Draw on the left side, the right side mirrors it exactly. And so you can change that symmetry tool to a rotational symmetry. And that allows you to draw in one section, and it replicates on all the rest of the sections, the same exact thing. And so I like to draw like little mandalas, and they kind of look like stained glass windows. And you can see here, this is how it works. This is very meditative for me. This is such a great, get you, thinking just freely and just relaxing, and squiggly lines. And sometimes I'll go back in and color drop and color them in. I just love it because it just creates these beautiful patterns so easily. This is a horizontal symmetry. So you've got so many options to draw identical. So let's say this is going to be a body of water, and there's trees on the top, but you know that they reflect below. So you could draw something like that, very easily by picking this horizontal symmetry and drawing your trees. And what's nice is that once you've got your repetitive drawing done, you can turn off the symmetry by unclicking it. And then let's say you just want to draw the water portion below. So you would just go in and you would draw the wavy water and make it look like a complete picture. And you can do this on different layers. So you have all these different tools and options to, create really cool pictures with these different tools at the top. Again, there's different ways that you can control your symmetry. So some of them where they don't meet in the middle, the lines stay open. You can control that with the toolbar. So that's something that you get to manipulate. You can extend strokes on there. So again, it's just I love the symmetry tool. It's a lot of fun. Does anybody have any questions so far? Because there's a lot of tools. I'm like I said, I'm only hitting on a couple, but is anyone drawing? Is anyone drawing anything? Again, this predictive stroke, please try that. It's amazing. And what's funny is that once you get used to drawing digitally and then you start drawing physically again, you forget that you don't have that option. So I'll be drawing with an ink pen or something, and I'll hold it down thinking it's going to straighten my line out. I forget that I'm not drawing digitally. So it's just a really cool feature. And then remember, anything that you create and that you save, you can import that into any kind of messaging that you're sharing or any presentations that you're doing. I mean, this is a really nice tool to make something very personalized for something that you're going to present. Because you can add text, you can create a picture. If you have a photograph, you can import that in here. You can add text to it, or you can draw directionals on it. So this is a nice free tool. Here's where I'm showing you the markers again. It works just like a physical marker. You draw that marker, you draw another stroke on top of it, and where they cross, it's darker. And then you can blend them. You can end up coloring an entire layer in a solid color. You can, by changing the width, and it works just like physical art tools. And you have a bunch. So when you scroll through the left side to see all the different brushes, erasers, pens, pencils, there's a lot. And they have really great texture. And you can also control the size and the width of those by those little tiny toggles that are on the outside. So if you drag those up, you can see how I'm coloring in that entire layer by dragging up the width of that brush. So this really is the whole very high level presentation of the Sketchbook app and how to use it and how to create some pieces of art and how it's so portable and it's free. So this is a great tool to share with young adults and kids that love to draw on, phones and tablets. Again, it is a paid, app or program if it is on a desktop or a laptop computer. So I really like looking to the portable version because it is free and it's so robust. There's so much you can do with it. People talk about, I'm photoshopping something. You can pull an image into this and use those tools on those images, make multiple layers so you don't mess up the original image. I mean, the basic stuff that we went over, you can do that very easily with this tool. I know I can share this presentation so they can send it to everyone for these links. The website has a wonderful gallery of tool information and more information on how to, do the advanced stuff with the app. But I just wanted to get everyone thinking about looking at art as a way to kind of decompress and, deal with some of the stressors that we have in our lives, because I love looking to art to help relieve some of that.